What's up? This is all up in your biz. It's Sabina Brennan. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me, Yvonne.
The manifestation. I call myself the manifestation queen, but you're really the manifestation queen, right?
I don't know. We could call me the manifestation doctor.
Yes.
Or the manifestation neuroscientist.
Yes. But you know what I find? I feel like there's like two groups of people, and one are like, yeah, tell me how to manifest. I love manifestation. I'm all into it. You know, they've gone down every path. They've looked into it. And then there's the people that are just look at you like you're a crazy person. Why?
Because you live on the Wooniverse. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Because actually they were the two audiences I was thinking of in my book. And actually as well, what the research shows is that we've different brain patterns in those two types of people, different neural traits. So essentially, some people are predisposed to actually believing in the magical and the mystical and religions and those kind of things. And they really tend to be the sort of people who think with their gut and act on their gut. And then the other side of the coin are people who would tend to think with their brain and be much more rational in their thinking. And yeah, their sort of brain traits operate in different ways. I was keen to attract the people who really would love to manifest their best life, but are too skeptical about it. That seems to have kind of worked because people have, I got a message the other day. Someone heard me on the Stomp podcast in the UK, and he said, I heard you on the podcast, and he said, to be honest, I thought it was all woo, but he said, I like the sound of this woman. And he said, I literally just read your book cover to cover in a couple of days. And he said, wow, he said, now I get it. Now it's science. Now I understand it. So that's kind of that audience. The reason the other audience I'm actually interested in is also that sort of group of people, and I hate to sort of generalize, but generally speaking, the intuitive sort, those who actually really are drawn to the magical and the mystical, also are very vulnerable to fraud, and they're very vulnerable to being taken for a ride. They hear these fabulous stories and they go, oh, it happened for them, it'll happen for me. And they're more likely to part with their money without actually really assessing the risk associated it, and whether you can afford to spend that money, and whether it would be money well spent, or whether you would be better doing XYZ. So I kind of wanted to kind of get at that audience too and say, look, manifesting does work. It's not woo, but here's what works and here's why it works. And I suppose, as I say, manifesting does work, but not necessarily for the reasons espoused by some gurus and authors, etc. I certainly just kind of give the neuroscience and the psychology behind it.
I heard Rhonda Byrne from The Secret say that you need to write down all of your goals, and that focuses the brain. And I was like, yeah, it does. And that is why I created the Pause Penny manifestation box. If you want to manifest something in your life, get rid of the vision board and get your manifestation box, because you will write down what you want, and there are 7 steps. It is going to focus your mind and help you visualize. And I promise you this, what you create in your mind is far more powerful than anything on your vision board. So out with the vision board, in with the manifestation box, and grab it at pausepenny.com.
Yeah, and I really like, for me, I prefer the neuroscience of manifestation, because I know a lot of people spout quantum physics this and quantum, and I don't get quantum physics at all. But why did you go down the route of kind of neurosciences? Did you look at quantum physics at all? Or
yeah, no, absolutely. And you're a very smart person. I'm a smart person. Physics, it's just not in my smarts sphere.
Yeah.
I'm really not very good at it. In that, just trying to wrap my head around it. I did look into it, and the thing is, quantum mechanics is, physics for tiny things. And generally speaking, what people who espouse that, in terms of, oh, this is how manifesting works, they'll say, oh, your thoughts vibrate. We all vibrate at a certain level, and your thoughts vibrate at that level, and they go out in the universe, and then the universe sends back vibrating, information that gives you, what it is you want to manifest. But the thing is, subatomic particles, they behave in very strange ways. They're the kind of ways it's there or it's not there. It's not there till you look at it, or, those kind of crazy things. I struggle to get my head around, but they are there and it does happen. But that is physics for tiny things, and we're big things. And also the things that we want to manifest are big things. And the thing is that, yes, fundamentally, we are made of atoms and subatomic particles, but we are made of billions of interacting subatomic particles and atoms. And the strange way that they behave doesn't persist when you have multiples of them acting together. So whilst we're yes, subatomic particles vibrate, we're not vibrating. I'm solid. This chair is solid. It's not going to fall through the wall. And what I did look into in the science was just to try and see, could I, find, has anything been shown like, it says. And the thing is, the physicists, those people that do this research, they haven't figured out how you could measure something that's in the subatomic world and something that's in the classical world, which is what we're in, classical physics. They haven't figured out how you could measure these things in each other's worlds. Do you know?
Yeah.
So the science isn't there. And I suppose what I say in the book is the science isn't there yet. Maybe it will show something. But for the moment, it doesn't. And, I kind of really wanted to just focus on, what we know and how it backs up certain aspects.
And I think neuroscience is it makes so much sense. Like even this is one of my favorite parts of your book, chapter 3. It's called Change. The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but building on the new. Socrates. But you said this, I loved this. Manifesting is fundamentally, Yvonne, come on. I can't even read right now, folks. Manifesting is fundamentally about change. It's about changing your thinking, your behavior, your reality, and your brain. And it's just about your mindset, right? It's about changing up your mindset. Like I say to people a lot of the time, flip the script.
Yeah.
Like even just before we came in here, I was out with Sabina and I stood in a bag of dog shit.
Yes, you did.
Like what?
I still, folks, trying to understand why somebody would go to the trouble of putting poop in a poop bag and then just
leaving it
on the ground. On the ground. For Yvonne to stand in.
For Yvonne to stand in. But that's the kind of thing that could ruin your day if you're already having a bad day. Like you could
already perceiving that you're having a bad day.
And then all of a sudden you're just focused on all of the negative things and you don't see the positives. Whereas I thought, oh, I stood dog shit, but I get to interview Sabina. And then you were like, I've got wipes in my bag. And I was like, oh, amazing.
Yeah, no, it is. And I mean, so much of the things that hold us back are limiting beliefs. And I think the brain, the primary purpose, the primary purpose function of your brain is to keep you alive. And so the human brain is primed to notice the negative because it could be something bad that would impact on your survival, your health, your well-being. So your brain is always going to kind of be on alert for those things and bring them towards you. So you actually have to put effort in to find positives, to counteract those negatives. And of course, then you can learn to just focus on the negatives. And, if you're living in a state of chronic stress, you'll start to see threat where there is none, and you'll start to see negatives. And basically, if you tell your brain that nothing good ever happens to me, just bad things, I always walk in dog poop, well, the brain is going to say, oh, there's another piece of dog poop, let's walk in that. It's going to focus on it. It's not going to say, let's walk in that. But the thing is, it will notice the dog poop and you might stand in it. Now, it could be a good thing not to notice it, and that's probably not really a brilliant example. But the point is, your brain is bombarded with billions of bits of information. And brilliant as it is, it can't process all of that information. So you have a salience network in your brain that is responsible for filtering in information that is important, relevant, salient. Primarily, that's anything that might harm you or impact on you negatively in any way. Also, your brain will filter in unusual things. So if you're driving along and suddenly, a convoy of Jeeps go by with a radio station logo on it or something like that, your brain will notice that. And then it will notice things that are relevant or important to you. So if you say, pulling in at a car park of a restaurant to go for a meal with your new boyfriend, and your brain will say, "Ooh, there's your ex's car. Maybe we won't go in there because it's important and relevant to you." Other than that, it'll just filter in stuff that it thinks from your past behavior is relevant. So if you're always negative, it's going to filter in there's another negative thing. There's another negative thing. So, your what you think influences your behavior. And this is one of the ways that manifesting works, is that if you have clarity about what you want, your brain knows that these are important things. And manifesting through clarity activates the salience network in your brain. So you will start to notice things that are relevant to your goal. Those things were always there. You didn't attract them. They didn't magically appear. They were always there, but you didn't notice them. Your brain, and when I say by you didn't notice them, your brain didn't filter them in because they had no relevance. They weren't dangerous or whatever. They didn't pass the criteria to be filtered in. Now they do, because you've said. So the example I use in my book is that when we were saving to buy a house, and we we were saving to get married, and we were driving around in a battered old Fiat Ritmo. At the time, back then, you could drive any sort of battered old car. There was no limits on what was allowed on the road. There was no NCT. Anyway, one day it went on fire, literally at traffic lights. We could see flames coming out of the engine. So we had to buy a new car. A new old car. We couldn't afford a new car. That was kind of just not on our radar at that point. I have no interest in cars. I still have no interest in cars. I told you that when I went to do the pay parking, it asked me for my car reg, and I had to walk all the way back to my car to find out what my reg is. I barely know what make it is. So it's never been of interest to me. Back then, you used to advertise cars through a newspaper listing, and you'd have a picture of the car. So Dave showed me the car, and he said, "I think we should look for a Mazda 323. They seem to be like a good car." I'd never seen one before. And I went, "Oh, okay." So now this is really important to me, because we are going to spend some of the money we've saved on our house on a car that we didn't think that we would have to spend. Next day, I'm walking to work, and I just see Mazda 323s everywhere in traffic. Now, I didn't magic them into my world. They were always there, but they weren't relevant. And you think of any of those things that happen, you start to see stuff as soon as you start thinking about it. But the benefit of that is that then your brain might draw your attention to a Mazda 323 that's parked on the side of the road that says for sale.
Yeah.
And that is you. It allows you to take advantage of potential opportunity.
100%. It's all about seizing opportunities, because they will come up. But the problem is, if you're not clear on what you want.
And then I think, so attention is the key. It's focused attention, So once you have clarity, your brain then can focus attention on anything that will bring you closer to your goal. But I think it's very hard for people to understand, because it seems impossible that, attention, it not only influences what you will see, but whether you will see something at all. So that's a phenomenon known as inattentional blindness. So where we actually don't see something that is straight in front of our face, like literally in front of your nose. And actually a little example of that would be, if you look in the mirror and you have a spot or a blemish or something, and that is all you see, you are completely blind to how pretty your face is, how pretty your eyes are. You're just focusing on that little thing. But there's a fabulous experiment, if your listeners want to have a look at it. They may have come across it before. It's well known, but it illustrates it really, really well. It actually goes way back. Gosh, it's well over 20 years ago. But basically, it is a very simple experiment where on the video you see two groups of people. One are in white t-shirts, one are in black t-shirts. The people in the research study are told, count the number, and they're passing a basketball between them. Count the number of times the white team pass the ball to each other. Okay?
Mhm.
So that's your goal. That's what you're focusing on. During this experiment, a person in a gorilla suit walks into the middle of the two teams passing the ball, stands there, looks straight at the camera, beats its chest, turns and walks off. It is on screen for a total of 9 seconds. And 50% of the people who view that video say, "What gorilla?"
Mhm.
And it's good to have focused attention, but I think, they were focusing on the job at hand, but it really beautifully illustrates how things can be, opportunities can be straight in front of your face and you don't see them because you're focusing on something else. You're focusing on the negative. And one of my favorite definitions for manifesting is that it is the practice of gaining clarity around your goals by visualizing them, and then by developing the discipline to take action, to remain focused on and attain those goals. And one of the big reasons that manifesting is dismissed so much, and if I looked at why my fellow scientists were dismissing it, and when I looked at any interviews, what they're dismissing is the misconception that manifesting is just wishful thinking. You just sit there and you visualize having €1 million and you'll wake up tomorrow and you'll have €1 million. That's utter rubbish.
Mhm.
It takes action and it takes work. Manifesting is simply about making things. The word manifest just means to make happen. And essentially, that's what it is. You make things happen. But you have clarity about what you want to happen. And what I say about manifesting, the manifesting that you talk about and the manifesting that's really, really popular should by right be called conscious manifesting.
Mhm.
Because we are, every single day of our lives, we're manifesting. We're making things happen, but we're doing it unconsciously. So this morning I was in Cavan in my garden trying to get my dogs to come into the house. I manifested being in the studio with you. I didn't sit down and wishful think that I would just be in the studio being interviewed by the gorgeous Yvonne. I actually had to figure out, okay, well, I need to be there by X time. I'm going to have to drive there. I'll need to park. Oh, I forgot about the need to park bit. But, I had the details. I had to go, well, I need to allow X time to drive. How long will it take? Put it in my Google Maps. And I got here. So I had an end goal. And then I worked back. What actions do I need to take to do that? And I took them. So people, you have been manifesting every single day of your life. Now, and for a lot of that time, though, you've been unconsciously manifesting, and that's influenced by habits, habitual behaviors, limiting beliefs, biases, all those sorts of things. And that's why often we just get caught up, doing things and without actually really having thought about it. When you consciously manifest, it's much more structured and it's effortful. You can't magically make things happen, but you can change your reality and you can change your future. But it requires effort and work, clarity, and you have to make sure that your thinking, your behavior, your actions are all aligned with the goal you want to manifest, but actually just as importantly with your true values. And a lot of
Mhm.
manifesting books start with gaining clarity about what you want. And I think that is an absolutely critical, really, really important step. But I think that there are some foundational steps that you have to engage in first. Otherwise, you're going to get into trouble along the way. And those two steps are, developing self-compassion, learning to be
Mhm.
kind to yourself, affirming your self-worth, because in that you can hear the, oh no, I'm not worth it, never happened to me, or you're always making mistakes, or you failed, or whatever. I mean, to be honest, if you heard anyone else talking to another human being the way we talk to ourselves, you'd say, don't do that. That's absolutely appalling. Or you'd tell the person, get out of that relationship. They're horrible to you. They're bullying you. They're beating you up. Self-criticism is a form of self-harm. And it's a form of self-harm that pretty much every one of us engage in every single day. And so that's kind of one of the real first steps, is to start changing up that inner, I keep saying inner dialogue, but it's an inner monologue, is it? Or it's a dialogue? I think I talk to myself.
I talk to myself.
Yeah, I think I talk to myself in my head. And yeah.
But I'm on the opposite end, Sabina. Like, I'm delusional. Sometimes I think, how are people so mean to themselves?
You don't have that critic in your head.
I do. I have, like, you know what? I have this fierce belief in possibility. And I've seen it myself, Sabina, by committing to what I'm going to do on a small scale, and then it goes on a bigger scale. So if I tell myself, Yvonne, you're going to study law and you're going to become a lawyer. Well, I didn't get the points to study law. I didn't get into the college of my choice, but I still studied law in a different way, and I still got into one of the top law firms. I wasn't going to give up. So I feel like if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. Like this, like yesterday, I set my alarm for 5:15 to get up and go to the gym. It's like, you need to start exercising, Yvonne. And what did I do? I snoozed it. That is the worst thing. So then this morning, when I set my alarm last night, I said, Yvonne, when that alarm goes off, you are out of the bed. I mean, you're not even allowed to think. And I said, you're making a commitment to yourself that you are going to exercise 4 times a week. You're not prioritizing your health. So I think you will create a fierce belief in yourself if you stick to the small goals. So the little small things, like, I'm going to get out of bed at 6 a.m. If you can't stick to the small goals, well, how are you going to run the marathon, launch the business, start the podcast?
They're the steps. So your brain is brilliant at solving what we call inverse problems. So basically, you know, when you want to manifest your goal, you have a long-term goal. And let's say it's that you want to get a 6-pack, you know, long-term goal. I see everybody on Instagram and, you know, God, I'd love to have a 6-pack. Wouldn't that be fab? I'd be so happy if I had a 6-pack. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
So through visualizing yourself with the 6-pack, that's the end goal. So your brain then has to work backwards towards now, where you have a flabby tummy, and go, well, what do I need to do to get a 6-pack? And so you might do research and look into it, and okay, I'm going to have to change my diet. And if I have a date by which I want to have that 6-pack, well, then that means I'm going to have to go to the gym for 2.5 hours every day, and I'm going to have to do so many crunches, and I'm going to have to change my diet, and I'm also going to have to do cardio. And this is where I think manifesting the visualization is really, really useful, because it really does help you gain clarity. Because if you really, and manifesting kind of goes beyond the visual, it's literally imagine every detail of doing it. And when you do that, taking that example, that person who wants to have the 6-pack has to go, well, I have to go to the gym today. I work, and that's 9 to 5, and then I have the kids, and that would mean I'd have to get up at 4 a.m. If I do I want to do that, or else I'd have to give up seeing my friends, such and such. And so the visualization gives you this sense of, actually, much as I'd love to have a 6-pack, it's not the most important thing in the world to me. Actually, I really value spending time with my kids, and I really value. So maybe, what do I think I could commit to? You know what? I could commit to an hour 4 days a week. So I'm going to work my plan on that. And my goal then is going to become, I'm going to get, you know, a healthy weight, and I'm going to feel better about myself. May not have a 6-pack, but I'm happy with that because I'm good with the other stuff. So I think manifesting is just as valuable in terms of you discovering what you don't really want as actually getting, you know, working your steps towards what you do want.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I think manifestation is almost like a discovery of oneself. And I feel like even in our manifestation box, the second card is your why.
Yes.
Like, if you don't have a strong why, you're just going to give up. Like, even in October, this month alone, this will be out in November, but like in October, say, I had a bit of a business wobble. Like just in the sense of I was like, oh God, is it worth it? I feel like it's a constant hustle.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a constant hustle to make sales. What's the next way I can promote, you know, yourself, like
Yeah.
promote the sales, make it. And I thought, hold on a second, Yvonne. In October, Sarah Blakely, the Billionaire Spanx founder, called you. LinkedIn.
Really?
Yeah, I
Wow.
manifested. I'm going to tell you, because we're going to talk about different ways of manifestation. She called me. LinkedIn placed a corporate order. I stood outside LinkedIn on October 31st, 2023. I had just dropped off a small order of boxes to a biotech company. And on the way home, I saw LinkedIn and I took a picture outside it and I said, someday I'm going to be in here.
Wow.
Right? 1 year later, what happened was I was doing a manifestation challenge, and this is seizing opportunities. I had written down I wanted more corporate orders, more corporate orders. I'd written down that I wanted more corporate
But
orders.
you have a plan. If you do,
You
you know
have
what
a
I mean?
plan.
Yeah, you know, like it's, and you're taking action. How do I get more corporate orders?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I made a decision that every single day I had to send one email to
Right.
someone. And now I hadn't sent any emails to LinkedIn, but I had to send. And then what happened was a girl had my stuff. She really liked it. She happened to be in LinkedIn. She said, can I have your deck and I'll send it on to my team? Within a week, I was in there.
Excellent.
I set off the alarm.
Did you?
Yeah, sure. You're a small business owner. I had to drop the stuff in myself.
Yeah.
Early morning before the kids get in, like holding these massive boxes, trying to get in the door because I don't want to pay somebody. I'm going to lose the minimal profit.
Yeah.
There is. But when it comes back to manifestation, right? I think I'm going to let you tell your story about the house, but I'm going to tell you the story about Sarah Blakely, who's the Billionaire Spanx founder. So I had decided that I love her because she talks all about manifestation and she visualized herself on the couch with Oprah. She didn't know what it would be for, but she knew that someday she could see it
for knickers. Yeah.
for knickers. Yeah. And I was like, I'd love to get her on the podcast because I love her vibe. I love how authentic she is because, you know, and you probably get this yourself. Some people just see manifestation as woo because they're not, it's the term that they're struggling with. I think we just need to change the term to consciously taking action, right? Or something.
But anyway. Look, I say that I gave a talk last week it was National Women in Enterprise Day.
Yeah.
And I was asked to speak, to commemorate, for the event and give the keynote. And their theme for the event this year was make it happen. So I spoke about manifesting because manifesting just means to make it happen. My book is called The Neuroscience of Manifesting. It could be called The Neuroscience of Success. It could be called The Neuroscience of Making It Happen. It could be called The Neuroscience of Achieving Your Goals. But that's what manifesting is. It's just taken on some of the mysticism and the magic. And I do talk about it in my book. Just understanding the science doesn't mean it's any less magical. You still manifest your dreams. It still feels great. You're just more likely to succeed if you actually understand your brain, how your brain works, because then you understand better how you work and you understand how limiting beliefs and biases, etc., can kind of hold you back. But just to go back to your point about the self-awareness, that's what I think. You have to have compassion for yourself. And then the second chapter is connection, and that's connecting with and understanding your true self. And that sounds woo-like as well, to say your authentic self and all that sort of thing. But who are you? Like, who are you really? And the thing is, you are a collection of data that your brain has pulled together to give you a sense of self. And we all have this. The brain actually is the greatest magician, the greatest magic show on earth, really. It somehow gives us a sense of an eye behind the eyes, that we have a self that never changes, that just is. That's me, But all that is your brain has collected together data and information from all sorts of sources, huge amount from your childhood, from teachers, from, an opinion that somebody had. It does not test the veracity of that information. It doesn't check whether that information is valid or not. It just takes a bunch of information together. Often there's negatives because we're biased towards the negative. And that is your sense of self. And if anyone thinks that their sense of self never changes, compare yourself at 35 to 15. You have changed completely. It's just the change is so minute that you kind of don't notice it. But we're constantly evolving and changing. And it is because it's your brain creates the story of you from data. What I think you need to do is interrogate that data and interrogate those limiting beliefs and say, where did I get that from? And most of us know. You would be surprised. Most of us know why I think I've a big nose, why I think and actually I had a funny one, which is really, it's just very, very simple. I always thought I had ugly feet. And my husband, I'd say, came out sometime around, I said, oh God, I hate showing my feet. And he says, you've lovely feet. And I said, no, when we met first, you told me I had horrible feet. He said, I never did. I said, yes, you did. And I've carried it with me ever since. Do you know? And I don't know whether I misremembered it or he said something like, your feet look funny in that and in those shoes. And I took it to mean, you know, and we do that. We do that all the time. So it really is important. And that's just a fun one, you know, but, you know, there's so many things that we take on board and we take them as valid. And they may have been one person's opinion, one person who you may never have seen again, one person who actually maybe you don't even admire or you haven't even looked at how they've turned out. Why would it matter? So it really is about kind of stripping back. And then the really good news is you can give your brain valid data that says, yes, I can go to university. I can study law. I did study law. I'm an achiever. I'm this. You need to start actively picking out those things that you really are, that sort of truth. And I think you'll find that you're on the money. And I think this is really important for gaining clarity about what you really want. As you said, your second card is why. So I would encourage people, like, why do you want €1 million? Why do you want a Gucci bag? Whatever. If you keep asking that why, fundamentally, if you're human, you will come down to, I want to be happy. That kind of is really pretty much, that's a fundamental thing where you kind of can't go any further in a way, I want to be happy. One of the benefits of self-compassion is that people who are compassionate towards themselves are happier. They're more content. And self-acceptance is linked. It predicts your happiness levels as well. So it's like a great starting point, to just even start to like yourself, start to explore. But I think if in that journey, because some people don't even know what they want to manifest. That's kind of an interesting one. Some people think they want to manifest loads of money. And I kind of say to that, you can go for whatever you want. I'm not putting any limitations. But look at all the really, really wealthy people, are they truly happy? Often they struggle even more because they think, oh my God, I have everything. And why am I not happy? So I think if you can get to the core of where your joy is, where your passion is, what is that thing that when you do it, time stands still or you've no concept of time, you're lost in that action, you are brilliant in that action, and that voice, that negative voice in your head isn't there. That's flow. And the more self-aware you are, the more work that you do to find your passion, the more likely, and that passion becomes part of your goal or underscores your goal, the more likely you are to succeed and the more likely you are to spend more time in flow. And flow is an amazing state because you are fully present. And there's amazing things happen in your brain when you are in flow that allow you to be creative, allow you to freely be yourself without a negativity that kind of holds you back and limits you, So I think that foundational work is just so important. People are so eager to jump into I want this, I want this, I want this. But who are you? How can you know what you want if you don't know who you really are? And that's why loads of us end up in our 40s going, how did I end up here?
Yeah.
Did I want to do that? And it's because you follow that pattern that we're all supposed to follow of go for the next promotion, go for the next promotion, go for the next promotion. And I often think some people get promoted into managerial positions because they're brilliant at the doing of XYZ. And they're going to go, I hate management. I was happy here. But society says, you got to apply for the next position. But actually, no, you don't. You can think outside it and go, actually, I'm really happy being a firefighter. I don't want to be a station manager. I like being out there fighting the fires. I don't want to be managing the shifts and figuring out who go and implementing these rules and I want to be out fire. I think that's kind of a great example because that is what happens. People go up the rank and end up doing something they don't want to do.
But the problem is as well is going back to that self-awareness, because I had a message from a girl recently and she told me that effectively she was saying, oh, I didn't even know what decision to make. So I asked my family and they basically made the decision for me. And I said to her, you have got to trust yourself.
Yeah.
You have got to be making decisions for yourself and not what your friends think you should be doing or your family thinks you should be doing or society thinks you should be doing. Because fundamentally you'll get to 40 or 50 and be like,
how did I get here?
Why didn't I live my life?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying all these people, like, let's say you're a corporate lawyer like me, you quit your job and you become a solo podcaster, right?
Yeah.
Like you could still do stuff in tandem.
Oh, yeah. And there's no either or, and there's multiple ways, and I think one of the issues around manifesting as well is that it's like you've only one goal. I manifest my goal and then that's it. No, you keep on trucking on. You keep on manifesting different goals because the thing is, the joy really is in the journey. It's because you see, the pleasure centers in our brain, the reward centers in our brain are activated even when we tick an item off a list. I'm a real list person.
Yeah.
And it's that's why breaking things down into steps is really important because you get that buzz for doing that little step. The long-term goal is going to take a long time. So if you just are waiting for that for your reward, that's going to make it really, really challenging to get to the goal and stay on track. You got to reward each step and your brain is brilliant. Like, the funny thing is when the pleasure centers in your brain are activated by the release of dopamine, it's rewarding. Hey, there's another item off the list or whatever, or there's another like on Instagram, actually the primary function of that is dopamine is released. It's to motivate you to do that again. Do you know? The reward is actually so that you will do it again. And that normally applies to things like eating and drinking water and having sex and all those things that, are open to our survival, but applies in other instances. So being kind activates the reward center in your brain and being kind to other people, but also being kind to yourself. So you feel better about yourself. And someone even witnessing someone being kind to someone else gets that hit of dopamine and actually are more likely then to be kind to somebody else, I don't know. It's really important to enjoy the journey and enjoy the success of getting there. But anyone who has succeeded in any way, attained goals, will know that buzz only lasts for a certain amount of time. And then you habituate to it. That's what your brain does. That's how we can survive, how humans have survived terrible things like incarceration and, what do they call it? Isolation, solitary confinement. People have survived those things because we adapt. And that's why when life throws us challenges, we survive them. It's horrific at first, but then we adapt. And that's why change is a big chapter in my book, because it is about, as you said, bringing about change. And there's this tug of war in our brains between the brain is hungry for change and it needs change to get new data and makes better predictions. So that's kind of like if you think of your brain as been operating on old data from your childhood about who you are. If you actually do this exercise and give your brain new data, it can actually make better predictions about what's going to happen because it has up-to-date data. Yes, actually, you know what? You are confident. You will be able to do that. Yes, your writing is brilliant. And yeah, you can send your draft to a publisher or whatever. It'll operate on that new information and adjust its predictions. Operating on the old information, it will go, nah, no point. Because that won't work out for you. Don't waste your time. So you change the data. So the brain really does, it's built for change. It is at the core of how we have evolved, how the human brain has evolved, and as how we evolve as individuals and become more resilient. We adapt to our surroundings and we adapt to, what's going on inside us as well. And we behave. But the other side of it is that the brain also hates change because its primary role is to keep you alive. And knowing all the facts makes it much easier to ensure that you're safe. And any change comes with risk. And so there's part of you, that's what we experience, that's going, yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to give up my job. I'm going to be a podcaster. And there's the other part that going, whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on a second. That's very risky. You might not have enough money to eat,
yeah. Your husband might divorce you if you do that, Yvonne.
Yeah.
You are not giving up your corporate job to become a podcaster. He will file divorce papers. And remember, you've got 4 kids. You need him.
Only because you have 4 kids. But it's that constant tug of war. That's just being human, that's what being human is. But you got to take those risks. You got to kind of push yourself if you want to achieve something. Manifesting requires action.
Where do you start? Because with the final few minutes, where does someone start with manifesting, do you think? Where's the number one place you just
I think
start?
they have to start with themselves. I think they have to do that self-awareness work. I think look, I use an example of building a house. When you go to build a house, the, site investigations are done, to look and see, well, can we build the foundations there? Oh no, there's a stream there. We're going to have to adjust. We're going to have to move. If you don't do that, literally foundational work, and you build your house, you're going to run into problems later. Cracks in walls, things will start to fall apart, whatever. And the same applies, I think, to manifesting. If you want to build a new future, which is what manifesting is about, you want to build a new future, you want to create a new reality, you got to build it on solid foundations. And you do, in this case, it's self-investigation. You look at yourself and you say, am I being compassionate to myself? Am I being as compassionate to myself as I am to other people? Am I being kind to myself? Do I accept myself? And then the other thing is, so that's compassion. And the second one is connecting with yourself. Take that time out, make an appointment with yourself, find out who you really are, what data your brain is using that created the story of you. Then you have a much better chance of building this new future and being sure that what you're working towards is connected with your true values, that it's driven by your own intrinsic motivation and your own passion. Then the next steps are not easy. It requires work. But this is where I think manifesting comes to the fore. A lot of the manifesting techniques help to keep you on track. They help to keep you focused. Affirmations, vision boards, gratitude journals, mindfulness, meditation. They all are tools that help you fight that battle in that tug of war between immediate gratification and long-term achievement. So manifesting works, but just not necessarily for the reasons some people espouse, but definitely there's neuroscience behind it to back it up, how and why it works.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to get this out. And oh God, there's so many other stories we could tell. We did an Instagram live, so people find that on my page as well, because Sabina talked about manifesting her house, and the story is just incredible. So I want people to go back and find it.
Yeah,
you don't have enough time. It's such a great story of manifesting your dream home. By the way, she has a phenomenal place. I was down there that you can stay in Cavan. Book and stay, and it is unbelievable.
Yeah, come stay if you want a place where you can just chill out, be you, actually do
and
that.
Be in nature.
Well, it's in nature. It's on a lake, and it's on 8 acres of grounds, and it's in 200-year-old cottages. And we have like a chill out, relaxation, meditation room, which is a great place to just sit and think. But you're on the lake. It's really embedded in nature, and we have, of course, the hot tub,
The
which
hot
you
tub.
sampled.
Love that. Love that. I was like
the
living my 5-star
sauna.
life.
But yeah, I mean, someone asked me, actually, we were nominated we were finalists in New Business of the Year. We only opened a couple of months ago. But again, I manifested that. I could visualize these rundown sheds, really, that were in our back garden, in our garden. And I visualized what they could be.
Yeah.
And then worked really damn hard to kind of turn them into that. And that's what it is. It is just making things happen. But really, when I was interviewed actually about them for the local newspaper, they said, how would you describe it? And I kind of went, it's a retreat,
Yeah.
Not in a religious sense. It's not far from Dublin. It's an hour from the airport, but you just feel like you're in, I call it a little slice of paradise.
Mm-hmm.
It is just this really zen place. And that's kind of good for helping with getting clarity and looking after yourself.
Yeah, I think it's a real place. If you want to really treat yourself to like calming the mind and figuring out maybe what you want to do, just book a little stay. And it's gorgeous.
You can put a link in the podcast.
Yes. I'll put a link there.
I want a link to my book.
Oh, and your book. Yes, in the show notes. Put the book, The Neuroscience of Manifesting, The Magical Science of Getting the Life You Want. Such a good book. I was telling Sabina, I don't typically read the books before I interview people, but I read her book on a flight, cover to cover, and I loved it. So pick up the book, get it as a gift for Christmas. For
it'd be a
people.
great Christmas gift.
It's a great Christmas
I need
gift.
you marketing, I need to go, I'm going, oh, God, LinkedIn, and she's selling piles of her stuff. You're so good.
Well, you just have to put yourself out there.
There you go. Yeah,
Manifest it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.